Hello and welcome to the 2019 International Futsal Alliance World Cup Draw. We're excited to bring you the draw ahead of next month's tournament in China. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and we're glad to have you with us today. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to give you a little introduction to how the tournament will work. Here it is.
The IFA Men's Futsal World Cup takes place in China, with teams arriving on August 19th and departing on the 26th. 9 countries will be split into 4 regional pots: North America, Oceania, Europe and Asia. The first team from each pot will be drawn into Group A, and the second will go into Group B. The third and final team from Asia will go into Group A. Each nation will face off against the rest of the sides in their group to determine the final standings. The top 2 teams from each group will progress to the semi-finals, whilst the other 5 teams will compete to determine their final position. The semi-final winners will then compete in the IFA Men's Futsal World Cup Final to determine this year's champions. Good luck.
Now that you know how the tournament works, it's time to introduce the person who's going to be helping me with today's draw. We have Stephen Shatila, the founding president of the International Futsal Alliance and the president of the Scottish Youth Futsal Federation. Steve, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Steve, if you could tell us a little bit about your background in the game of futsal.
Yes, I started Perth Youth Futsal in 2002, primarily with kids, and then we developed it into adult teams. From there, our adult teams have won the Scottish Championship 5 times and about to play in the IFA Futsal League again, this time in Holland. A few years ago, I also formed the Scottish Youth Futsal Federation, and in conjunction with our colleagues in Australia, formed the International Futsal Alliance to enable youth futsal activities to take part around the world.
Thanks for that, Steve. A fantastic history in the game, and we're really pleased to have you along for today's event. You said about your involvement with the formation of the International Futsal Alliance in 2016. That all started with the very first International Futsal Alliance World Cup in Dundee in Scotland. Could you tell us a bit about that tournament?
Yes, we started the first ever World Cup in Dundee, and we were glad to have our colleagues from Australia, USA and Pakistan join us for a 4-team tournament. It was very successful and we had approximately 1 million viewers online. So all in all, it was a nice start for the history of the IFA.
A fantastic tournament it was, with a real global viewing, and followed up by the Women's World Cup in 2017, the Under-14s World Cup later that year, and then last year the Under-20s, which brings us up to now, the 2019 Open Men's, the first ever edition of the Open Men's World Cup, and now it's time to make the draw. We have 4 pots. Pot 1, we have North America, which features USA and Mexico. Pot 2, we have Europe, featuring Scotland and Sweden. Pot 3, we have Oceania with Australia and New Zealand. And pot 4, finally we have Asia with host China, India and Nepal. So Steve, if you could get us underway with pot number 1, North America.
Okay. USA.
So USA will be in Group A, and ever present at the IFA World Cup so far, and looking for their 3rd victory in the competition overall.
In Group B, Mexico.
So Mexico going into Group B, making their debut, their first ever appearance at an IFA World Cup.
And now for Europe. In Group A, we have Sweden.
So Sweden in their 2nd IFA World Cup after participating in the Open Women's in 2017, and they'll now be in the same group as USA.
In Group B, Scotland.
So Scotland making their third appearance at an IFA World Cup, the hosts in 2016 in the inaugural competition, and also participated in last year's under-20s tournament in Spain.
We have New Zealand.
So in Group A, New Zealand, another debutant participating in their very first IFA World Cup.
And Australia.
Australia, another ever-present, who have been at each and every of the IFA World Cups. They have 2 victories to their name. They were the first ever winners of the under-17s, and they won the last tournament at under-20s, and of course will be confident going into this competition, hoping to make it number 3.
China.
So into Group A, we have our hosts from China, have participated in 1 competition so far. They put in an excellent showing in the Under-14 World Cup in December 2017, and certainly we know they're very excited to host the tournament next month.
And for Group B, we have India.
So India making their debut at an IFA World Cup, their first appearance in the competition.
And finally, we have Nepal.
Another debutant for the competition. Nepal will be playing in their very first IFA World Cup. So with Nepal's addition to Group A, that concludes the draw. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
So let's recap. First of all, we have Group A. We have USA, Sweden, New Zealand, China and Nepal. In Group B, we have Mexico, Scotland, Australia and India. So Steve, you've witnessed the draw. First of all, Group A, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Group A is very interesting. There's an unknown quantity with regards to Nepal, so it'll be very interesting to see how their futsal development is coming along. China is the host nation, so they'll be looking to impress everybody, so I'm sure they will do very well. The other 3 teams are well-developed futsal nations, so New Zealand, Sweden and USA, they'll be very closely contested games.
Indeed, a very interesting group. And Group B, what do you think about that, Steve?
Well, Group B will be very interesting. The game that stands out for me is Australia versus Scotland, because I know the Scottish players look forward to playing against Australians. They're a very tough test, so they'll be looking forward to playing that. Mexico, I'm sure, will be playing to a very high standard, and India, having had a professional futsal league not so many years ago, they'll be well up for that game as well.
Thank you, Steve, and thanks again for joining us. It's much appreciated. So that concludes today's draw. Let us know what you think. Comment on the video. We'd like to hear what you think are the biggest and most exciting matchups. We're certainly very excited, and we can't wait. The countdown begins now. So goodbye from today's draw in Edinburgh, Scotland, and we look forward to seeing you next month in China.